You're listening to Bigfoot Society, and I'm Jeremiah Byron. Tonight's account is from a woman who was just 9 years old when she lived close to the New Jersey Pine Barrens. What happened there wasn't just a quick glimpse or flash in the night. It's an encounter that would change how she felt about the woods forever. And this is the story of Star and the day that the Pine Barrens came to her doorstep. So stay with us. All right, Bigfoot Society, we've got the privilege of talking to Star today. Star's a listener of the show, and we got connected. Star's wanting to share some events that happened back in the 1990s around the Pine Barrens area of New Jersey. So welcome to the show, Star. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing great. Always fun to talk to people about their encounters. It is a highlight of the day for sure. But, Star, I'm really curious to hear more about, what happened during this time of your life when you had some experiences in an area of New Jersey that is really well known for Bigfoot encounters over the years.
I guess I could start by saying, I had just moved into this new neighborhood. I was around 9 or 10 years old. And so this is 30 years ago or more. And it was the house had backed up into the woods on a cul-de-sac. And, so we really only had one neighbor that kind of neighbored us to the one side of our house. We really didn't see them. There was a lot of trees in the way. So we really didn't even see our neighbors. We, kind of felt like we lived in the middle of the woods, really. So it backed up to the Pine Barrens, which I'm not sure if anybody's familiar with the New Jersey Pine Barrens, but I think it's over 1 million acres or 1 billion acres of forest that's undeveloped for whatever reason. And I guess it was preserved. So, they just, did not develop it. And so it's, I grew up just pretty comfortable running around through the forest. It was considered a safe, area. So my mom just kind of be like, okay, well, if you're out with your friends, just don't go too deep into the forest kind of thing. So, pretty much every other day in the summer, we'd just be out there and we'd make up stories and, play whatever pretend games out there. And, so we really weren't afraid of anything. And then my older brothers are teenagers, so we'd go often off-roading, things like that with them as well. Anyway, so it's pretty comfortable with being out there. And so one day I'm 9 or 10, I'm inside the house, and we're getting ready to go to the pool in the backyard, which is the pool is at the far edge of the backyard, about a half acre out. And so my mom's like, oh, clean your room before you go out to the pool, as most parents do, I guess, to their kids in summer. And so I'm just cleaning my room. My mom came in, bringing some laundry in, whatever, here, put away some laundry. And she kind of looks up. It's just me and her. My sister, I think, was at a friend's house. And I think my sister doesn't even believe us to this day. But my mom kind of out of the corner of her eye, as she's, bringing laundry into my room, just looks over and is like, do you see that, Kelly? Is this she's is this some kind of a joke? She's kind of frozen and, in fear, because she's just a stay-at-home mom. She doesn't, really encounter any kind of weird situations. So she was pretty frozen in her footsteps. Kelly, look at this. I'm like, Mom, what do you want me to look at? What? And then I look and I'm just we're both kind of frozen. Our jaws are just hitting, hit the ground. And, we're just is it an ape? Is it a bear? We're both we have no idea what we're looking at. We're it doesn't look like any sort of animal. And we're did something escape from the zoo? But apes aren't that tall, kind of thing. And, and it just kept, I would say for a half hour or an hour, I was pacing in the backyard, back and forth, kind of by the pool area. Just was it was standing upright on two legs, but it looked sort of ape-like. And this is the far edge of our yard. And of course I wasn't about to go out in the yard and really, get closer to whatever it was. So, especially, they say if animals come in your yard, it could mean they're sick or something, right? So we really had no idea what we were looking at. So after a while, we were kind of we were frozen in fear. Like I don't remember ever feeling like really that afraid at any kind of animal sighting. So we finally decided to call animal control and see, they came out, like inspected the yard and the woods, and they were out there for a while and they didn't see anything. So it just kind of vanished. And that's it. And then we were like asking people around the area if anybody had seen anything. So that was basically it. And then just like around that time period, there was some strange things that had happened in my life as well. Like about a week before that, there was a huge storm and a tree almost fell on me. After the day after the storm, I went to go to see why the pool pump wouldn't turn on. My dad was like at work. Normally my dad would do it, but I went to go check because I usually would go swimming every day. And I went to go look at it, and the tree my mother came out and screamed just as the tree, so I moved. She's like, Kelly, move. She's screaming from across the yard. And I moved. And then the second I moved, the tree fell a few inches from my head. This giant old pine tree, I guess. It was, some really massive, massive trees were back there. And so I had like just gotten out of the way. It was kind of like a near-death experience, I would say. And that had happened. And then another night, I was up at like 9 or 10 o'clock and I was playing piano. And I just remember feeling like I should go look outside. And I went to the front door and I looked up in the sky, and there was sort of like these light streaks going across the sky. And my family didn't really talk about any strange things like that. They're more military and conservative. So I just kind of was just like, oh, it's probably just my, imagination or whatever. But now that I hear all the stories, now when I listen to the stories on the podcast, that would like makes me wonder, because it kind of connects all of these different types of things that happened. And, I wonder what sort of connection any of it could have been. So those are just some of the other occurrences that I felt. And I did kind of feel like at night, I felt that there was like something sort of watching me, like my windows in my room kind of faced to the woods. And, I did feel that sense of something, out there that I think some people say they feel, but I just was always kind of told to kind of suck things up and move on, and kind of that kind of attitude. So I kind of just dismissed it, and I was very artistic, so I channeled a lot of things into being creative and into my art. To this day, 30, 40 years later, I'm still pretty creative. Even my job that I work full time in, I work in the arts. So I just kind of I never really talked about any of these sort of, I guess would be considered paranormal situations, but I guess I just channeled it more into the art field, the creativity aspect of trying to understand things in the world around us, I guess, that don't really make any sense. So, that's it. Some things I think maybe there just is no answer, no answer for, I guess. But I was just, curious coming on here to see if anybody else had stories from the Pine Barrens and things like that. Because, or even around that time period, if there was. So that's pretty much it. So thanks for having me.
Yeah. Do you mind if I ask you a few questions?
Yeah, sure.
Cool. So this is, was it early 90s that this would have happened?
gosh, I'm like 42, so whatever, take the age 9 to 42, so I guess whatever, 33 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, around there. All right. All right,
Yeah.
cool. So that gives us kind of maybe a more focused view of what part of the 90s in the area of the Pine Barrens in New Jersey. So when you said you would feel like something was watching you a lot, and I'm just curious, in the room that you would feel that, were there coverings on the windows?
Well, it was considered a safe area in that time period. We lived in a nice neighborhood, and if you only saw trees in your yard, you wouldn't really think of you know, covering too much.
Mm-hmm.
There might have been a curtain, but it wasn't like a blackout curtain or something. You know
Okay.
what I mean? We didn't. If you don't really have a neighbor that can see in, you don't really. And I'm on the second floor, so I'm not. Yeah, I don't think my windows were covered very often. I mean, maybe occasionally, but
And I don't ask that to be weird, but I do ask it because it's a pattern that I have found in talking to individuals. Usually it's females around this age where they would feel like they're being watched, and then they would see like a face in the window. Usually there would not be like something would be able to see through the window and not really covered up. So I was just more getting that for a data point for myself. Now, you had a really long time to see this as it was pacing for 30 to 60 minutes back by the pool. What you saw, were you able to notice any details? If there was if it was covered with hair, if it was not covered with hair in certain parts, any things like that?
yeah, I mean, from what I could say, it was mostly hair and like a dark brown, and I like couldn't really see the face. And I remember like also the sort of blurry kind of like some people say it looks the blurry or fuzzy or I don't know, whatever. Yeah, maybe because of the hair, but our yard was actually quite big, and it was at the far edge, of the yard, and there was a fence around the pool because um, people in that neighborhood put fences around their pool for safety reasons. So it was behind the fence, but it was tall. So like I was like, oh, there's no way like an ape is that tall. You know what I mean? Like it was probably I'd say at least 6 foot tall because because I could take an eyeball measurement from the size of the fence and being able to see it, a few feet over the fence. So
Gotcha.
if that makes any sense, like we didn't really have a fence around our yard, but we only had a fence around the pool part of
Oh,
the yard.
totally makes
So
sense. Yeah. Um,
yeah.
you said it was walking back and forth on two legs. Did you notice that it had a certain type of posture as it was walking, or a certain way of walking?
Yeah, I was like kind of slouched and like swinging the arms and like we kind of were like, is it a man in like a furry suit? It was like kind of, it was like we're like my mom like actually I think called my brothers, like my older brothers are like living away and like and they were grown up and like, at that point and living on their own. And my mom's like calling them and like, did you just prank us? They're just like, what? Like, what are you talking about? So it was definitely not a prank. She thought like honestly that it was like them or their friends or something. Because my brothers were like in their 20s
Mm.
at that time, so they're kind of like in that age that might do a silly prank, but
Right, exactly. They might put on a costume
yeah,
and try to prank their parents. Absolutely.
yeah.
Were you able to go back in that area afterwards and see if there are any tracks or anything on the ground?
Um, I think we might have. I was actually kind of scared. I really didn't even go in my pool for a few weeks after that. But I mean, I think my mom or like the animal control might have. I don't really recall anything. I was still kind of a kid So I think if I was a teenager and that happened, I probably would have been more astute to, go look for tracks or something. But, I kind of, so unfortunately,
No, I mean, that makes
I
total
guess,
sense that, that
yeah.
time of your life, you're just kind of freaked out. I mean, it makes total sense.
Yeah, I was just more freaked out. And like, I just remember like my sister didn't see it happen. And like, she kind of still went swimming in the pool and she was like, come on. Like, and I was like, no, I'm good. Like, I'm going to stay inside and like read a book today, And it's funny because I did kind of become more into playing the piano and art and things after that, because I kind of was like more freaked out to be outside and hang out with my friends, honestly. My friends would come over and like end up hanging out with my little sister because I was like kind of spooked out by the whole thing.
Oh, wow. So really,
Ironically.
I mean, really, this didn't just freak you out, but it kind of changed the
It
course of your life in a way.
it might have. I don't, now that I'm really thinking about it, it's very well could have been part of it. Yeah.
That's intense. When you said that
Yeah.
you were looking up in the sky and you saw light streaks, um,
Mhm.
is that meaning that you're seeing things flying around, or what exactly does
Yeah,
that
yeah.
mean?
I saw literally like quick flashes going in the sky. And then I had kind of believed a little bit in fairy and folklore as a kid and superstition. And I thought, oh, I'm seeing fairies. And I, would make paintings of fairies and things. And my mother, if I would have said something like that, would have said it was demons. That would have been my mother's explanation. So I really didn't like her explanation. She always would go to a dark place. So I really didn't open up too much more about anything, if at all. Because she always would take things and go to a really dark place with everything and just saying like, oh, it's always Satan, it's always demons. But I kind of was more the whimsical and like folklore explanation, things. And but now when I hear about people seeing aliens and lights and flashing, then maybe I think maybe that's what I was seeing. There could have been a portal there. It very well could have been. And it's strange that I'd be like playing piano, really calm. My mother said that I was always very oddly calm as a child, like very odd, like I was born and like she said she never had to discipline me or like some kids you might have to say if you behave at church and I'll give you a lollipop or something, and she just said that I always just did whatever I was told the first time things like that. She said it was just very strange. I always had like a strange she's like, you never really acted out or anything as a little kid. I did as an older kid,
Gotcha.
but
Yep.
anyway, but
Yep. Yep.
she always said that. And then, so I was sitting there, I'm like 9, I'm playing piano. I was advanced. So I'd be playing like classical music and I'd just be sitting there and doing that for hours, kind of in a meditative state. And that's when I would get this inclination to go look outside, you know, and I would look outside and I'd be like, that's interesting. And kind of like rub my eyes and think, oh, it's probably like sleep in my eyes, kind of thing, or it's a fairy, maybe so. So I kind of just, like I said, I didn't really open up too much to the people around me because I was like, they're going to just think I'm like totally nuts.
Was there then, as you grew older, something that happened to you that made you realize, okay, it's okay to open up about this stuff now?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. It's funny, like over the years, like in the last 20 years or so, I mean, I've run into like coworkers and things like that I've like mentioned stories about this. And I'm kind of like, like that's interesting. I'll always like listen to them and I keep an open mind. And then I kind of like just over the years kind of have been, and then I kind of, after a while, I start thinking like, oh, things like that have happened to me before too. And like, I didn't like really think of it at first, because it was so um, far back, in my childhood. So, you know. definitely like more to what meets the eye, you know. And I mean, I don't know if you want me to include the story. There was like this old couple, like literally living in the woods. I don't know if you want me to go into
Yeah,
that
I,
whole
I was
story.
I was gonna lead you into it.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't know if you want me to.
No, go
I
for
was
it.
like, I don't know how far deep you want to go down the rabbit hole, but yeah. So we would always go hiking, like I said, every day. Like we would just go out into my backyard. My mom would just be like, "Well, don't go too far out. Like, don't go too far out." And I'm with like a group of girls, and some of us would sort of dare the other, go further, or whatever, you know. And so we go out maybe a mile back, you know. I don't, you know, I really couldn't be sure, but we were definitely going further than what my mother probably would have wanted. And so there was like sounds like a story like Hansel and Gretel. So there was like literally just like an old house. It didn't really match the houses in our neighborhood that were probably built in the 80s or 90s or whatever. And this house was probably, you know, the 1800s or whatever. You know, I really couldn't say for sure, but for sure, you know, 100 years or more older than the houses in my neighborhood. So further out in the woods, and we were like, there was vines growing on it. And so we like were like, oh, it's a haunted house, you know, and we're just giggling and having a chuckle and messing with each other, you know, because we didn't see a driveway and everything was overgrown. The yard was kind of overgrown looking, and you know, we're thinking there's no way, like why would somebody live all the way out in the middle of the woods? You know, it seems so inconvenient. So you know, we just kind of go out, and every time we'd go out, we'd probably get a little closer, or we'd throw a rock at it, you know, see if the ghost would come out, kind of thing, because we literally just assumed it looked like an abandoned house, you know. So we're thinking like, you know, like kids will throw a stick, you know, and then run and like see if the demon comes out or whatever it was. You know, we just make up pretend stories like kids don't really do anymore, right? And so one day we're out there, and it was probably two or three of my friends are with me, and this, you know, we saw somebody, like we saw the door open or whatever. So we're like, no way. We're like practically like, you know, pooping our pants or whatever. Like, we're like, there's no way there's somebody coming out, you know, coming out of this house. Cause here we had like been messing around for a while and thinking like, there's nobody there. There's gotta be nobody there. And so we go back and tell my dad, and my dad happened to be home that day. He was usually at work, but we finally, he must have had a day off finally, and he was home. And he goes, "You guys are kidding me. Like, there's nobody who lives out in the woods." And we're like, "No," because there was like four of us like telling him. So if it was only me saying it, he probably wouldn't even have believed it. But it's literally like four of us kids all saying it. And we're like, "No, there's definitely somebody there. Like the door opened. There's like somebody living in our woods behind our house." And he's like, "That's not even like, you know, property where somebody could live. Like that's owned by such and such or whatever, you know, I don't know, like why would somebody live out there on that land?" So it's really, really strange. So he goes out and he hikes back out there with us, and he knocks on the door, and we're like hiding in the woods. We're like, we're not going closer, you know, because we're thinking like a freaking like a devil or some murderer is going to open the door. We don't, you know, we don't know. We're like this is really freaky. And this like sweet old man opens the door, like 80 something years old, and his like sister, he lives with his sister there, and they're old, they're really old, and they said they had escaped Germany during the war. So that's all, you know. And then my dad like goes in and like talks to them because he's like, whatever, you know, having a whole chat with them, and like just to make sure they're okay. He's like, "Do you guys need groceries? Like, are you okay?" Because they were older. So he was like worried about them, you know. He's like, how do you guys like live out here, you know? And they're like, "Oh, we eat the berries and things." So there's like a lot of I guess wild berries that grow around there. So that's what they said they do. So I don't know. They said they're just living out there like totally fine. I don't know.
It's wild because you said
Yeah.
escape Germany from the war, which that's like 40s, right?
I guess.
I
Yeah,
mean,
I
I
would
would
think
guess
so.
that's what they're talking about. And
If they're in their 80s,
yeah,
and that was in the 90s, I guess so. Yeah, I guess if you do the math, right? Then I guess they would have left after like World War II, when the fall of Germany or whatever,
oh man, they could have
But
been
like,
in their 30s, and then they've just been in the woods for years and years and years.
yeah, it's so fascinating. So then I did go back. So I went back because when did I go back? Maybe 10 or 15 years ago. I did hike back to the woods and I said, you got to see this house. It's in the middle of the woods. I'm sure the people are passed away now, but I went to go back, and because they would have been like 120 years old at this point or something, right? So I went back and it's gone, and there's just like a housing development where that house once was, and I was like, oh man, like that was, ugh, you know. So I did finally, like, I think I might have been in my 30s, and I finally was like, you got to come hike out in the woods. You won't believe what's out here. And then like literally it was just like freaking houses there, like, some crappy
Ugh.
house. So somebody's house is now on top of that weird house where these people, I don't know, you know what I mean? Like, it's so weird. Somebody's now living in like one of, those developments where all the houses look the same.
Oh yeah, and they have no idea. They have no idea.
And they have no idea. They're
Yeah.
just like on top of this weird house. I don't know. Mm-hmm. They're probably having like weird stuff happen in their house. They don't know why.
100%, and they have no idea.
Yeah.
Probably have some weird stuff.
Yeah, I don't
going
know
on.
what
Yeah.
the real story. And there's got to be a real story, whatever the real story is behind that. But like, we're never gonna know. But anyway,
Unless someone knows and puts it in the comments. Maybe someone does know, but
maybe somebody does know.
That would be awesome. But yeah, I mean,
oh my God,
Star, thank you so much for reaching out to share what you've experienced near the Pine Barrens. I'm sure there'll be, lots of people that are able to put things they've experienced in the comments as well. There's usually tons of activity around the area of the Pine Barrens, which is about 1.1 million acres. It's massive. I just want to make sure that you were able to share everything that you wanted to share on the show today.
Yeah, I think so. Thank you so much. Yeah, that was all my weird paranormal experiences in the Pine Barrens. So I will keep you guys posted if anything else happens, but not to, anyway.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Definitely keep us in mind. And hopefully nothing else happens, but if it does, you know who to talk to. And have a great rest of your day, Star. I appreciate it.
Okay. All right. Thank you. You too. All right. Bye.
Just wanted to say thank you for listening to this episode of the Bigfoot Society podcast. Star's story is one of those rare encounters that sticks with you, not just because of how long it lasted, but because of how close it came to the safety of her home. So huge thanks to Star for sharing her memories from that summer day in the Pine Barrens of New Jersey, for reminding us that sometimes the wild doesn't wait for you to go looking for it, it comes to you. If you enjoyed this conversation, please subscribe to us on YouTube, hit the bell icon so you don't miss any new episodes, and share this one with a friend who's into Bigfoot, the Pine Barrens, or just a good old-fashioned mystery. If you're listening to the podcast on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, make sure you're following the show there, and if you'd be willing to leave us a 5-star positive review, it really helps more listeners find us. Now, if you or someone you know has had a Bigfoot encounter, especially in New Jersey or the Pine Barrens or anywhere in the world, I'd love to hear from you. So please send me an email at bigfootsociety@gmail.com and let's talk. If you haven't gotten the chance to see it yet, we do have a brand new membership community if you'd like to support the podcast and also get such benefits as members-only episodes, ad-free early release episodes, and a way to chat with others that are into Bigfoot as much as you are. We watch a movie together once a month, and we also do a Zoom hangout as well. A lot of good stuff gets talked about in those that are not shared publicly. So check it out, www.bigfootsocietypodcast.com, and click on the members login area, and we'll see you on the inside. So thanks again for following the Bigfoot Society. Until next time, keep your eyes open, trust your gut, and never stop asking what else might be out there, and see you in the woods.